G'day, my name's Dan, and today we're going to do another bonus video. In this one we're going to build a desktop theme for our rule set. Now, building a desktop theme is good. It's not really something that the Ruleset Wizard can do for you. It's mostly graphical work and understanding how 9 slices work. I'm not going to get too far into 9 slices today because it's a whole topic by itself, and I've done videos on 9 slices before and you can go look those up. So I'm having a look here at the Cyberpunk RED PDF, and I'm looking at the graphic here, and it's got a very distinctive theme. Now I can't use their graphic, or I could use the graphic, but I want to share this rule set with people when I'm done with it, so I don't want to use their copyright elements. So I've jumped onto my favorite source of licensed stock, so I've jumped onto Adobe stock, and I've bought a couple of images. And I've looked for images that are close to the theme that I'm looking for. So I bought this image here of a cityscape with, it kind of looks like a cyberpunk sort of futuristic. It's got the right colours and that washed out feel, and it's also got some shapeless, nameless, faceless people in the foreground in the picture. And I've also grabbed this picture where I think that I can extract the image of this cyberpunk woman out of the picture, and I've got an idea in my mind how I'm going to join those images together. So what I've done then is I've jumped into GIMP, and what we'll do is we'll start with this image. So we've got the image here, and you can see it's quite a large image, 5,000 pixels wide, 2,800 pixels tall. I've gone and very painstakingly cropped this character out of the picture, and what I've done is I've resized it, and where I got that the size from is in the next image. So we'll jump onto that one next. So going back to our cityscape, this is the original image. Now I've done a couple of things to this. I've applied a couple of filters to this just to tweak it a little bit. Now I'm looking at the image, and I'm looking for a couple of things. First thing, I'm looking for an edge that I can tile the image on horizontally. Vertically is really, really hard to tile a image that's not a pattern. Right? When we've got some sort of image, whether it's a photo or it's a drawing, like it's of a scene, it's really hard to tile that vertically. So I'm concentrating here on the horizontal tiling. Now, two things that really stand out to me in this image. One is that these figures here are far more in the foreground and far more distinctive. So I want to avoid trying to tile them because they'll be far more obvious that they're tiled. So this side of the picture is going to tile better because the repetition is not going to be as obvious in this image. So what I've done, and I've gone through a little bit of trial and error here, but what I've got is we've got our image, and I can see where I want to tile the image here. Basically, I flip the image, okay, so that my characters that I don't really want to repeat are going to be on the left-hand side of the screen, because the left-hand side of the screen is not going to repeat. The right-hand side of the screen is going to repeat. And so I flipped the image horizontally. Next thing I've done is I've had a look at, and I've done this with a bunch of trial and error, but basically I've found that if I take this half of the screen here and flip it again, it will tile nicely on this edge and on this edge. And we're going to see that in action here. So firstly, what I've done is the maximum desktop image size that you can use is 2048 pixels horizontally and vertically. So because I want to tile some of this image again, I can't use the full 2048. I've gone with 1200 as a starting point. So I've scaled this image down so it's 1200 pixels wide. I've got no control of the vertical height. 704 is where the vertical height comes out with. It's not as big as I would like. I would like it to be a bit bigger. 704 is what it is, and we'll work with that. So the next thing I've done is, if I put this mask over here just so you can see it, this section here is the bit that we're going to tile, and you'll see it in the next screen, but basically I've now gone and selected the image from this side, and I've dropped it over here in a new image, and then I've changed this image to be 3 times the width. So the canvas is 3 times the width of the layer that we can see. And I've done that just so I can test the scaling, because I want to show 2 of them flipped. That will be the first test, and then I need to test the other edge for those people that are running a really widescreen setup. So what I've got is I've got the same image 3 times. 1, 2, 3. 3 times the image here. So the first one, this image, I'm going to throw it all the way to the right, because that's going to test the scaling on, the tiling on this edge. So let's drop this image and throw it all the way over to the right. Now the second image is this one here. I have to put that to the top for this particular tool to work. I'm going to take this image, this layer, and I'm going to stick it right in the middle. We're going to put that one into the middle. Now because my image is exactly 3 times the size, or the canvas is 3 times the size of the individual layers, that was able to work. I was able to go left a line, right a line, and center a line. Now I'm going to take this layer and I'm going to flip it horizontally. Now you might be thinking that, wow, that was pretty quick, or anything like that, but trust me, this process takes a heap of time. First you've got to find the right image, the right style, and look at these elements, where you could tile it on an edge, whether the format, the dimensions of the image will work, colors, theme, all sorts of things like that. So there's a whole process that goes into it, and you'll get better at doing that as you do it more often. But as you can see, this image looks like one unique image. Like when you look at this image first up, it's not immediately apparent that there's tiling going on. Just looks like we're on a corner and we've got 2 streets, one off on the left there and one off on the right, and we can see the whole vista there. Okay, because the elements that really stood out in this particular image, we hid them. These are the most obvious parts of this, so we're not tiling those. We're leaving those. We're going to keep them in the image, but they're not going to be part of the tiling image. So now we can see here that this is going to work. Now, next thing is I need to create my layered image. So what we've got here is I've got the original image. Here is the original image at 1200 pixels wide, right? And at 394 pixels, that's basically a line here, just to the right of these 2 sort of pink neon lights, right? At 394 pixels, really hard there, 394, that is the section that's going to tile. I'm going to get rid of this line. I don't need that line on here. And so I've dropped the rest of that image on here on a separate layer, okay, and it's neatly tiling, okay. We can see there that you can't really see the join. It's not super obvious. Of course, if you're looking for it, you'll know it's there, okay. So next thing is this canvas is 2048 pixels wide. So that's the maximum width I can use, and it's 1000 pixels tall. 1000 is just a number that's big enough to accommodate most screen sizes, and you'll see why. So next thing, I'm going to drop in a black layer, all right, black background layer, and that will give me a top border and a bottom border. All right, now when we get to this layer up here is actually, I've made a copy of both of these layers, and then I've merged them down into one layer, so we can see it here. All right, so this layer and the black layer that's at the back are what's showing this up. Now, I want to also incorporate my figure. And so I've got my figure that I've cut out, and I've sized it down to 804 pixels in height. Where did I get 804 from? 804 came from this image was 704 tall. This, I've dropped it down 100 pixels, so we've got a total of 804 pixels down, and then the rest of it is just black. All right, I could have sized this to be exactly the same size as my main image, the background image, but the character pops more when she breaks out of that frame, and so her gun pops out and the head just breaks free of that frame, and that gives the image a little bit more punch, a little bit more substance. I could drop it down out of the bottom of the frame as well, but that will break my 9 slices. Now this is where it gets tricky. I am not going to do 9 slices. Well, I'm going to do 9 slices, but a bunch of the slices are going to have 0 size, so they won't get displayed. So what I'm basically going to be doing is 394 pixels across here, comes to a line about here. That is going to be my left offset. My top offset is going to be 804 pixels, which is all this all the way down to here. My right offset is going to be 0. So it's going to take the line in from the right, it's going to come in 0 pixels, which means it doesn't exist. And from the bottom, I'm going to come in 0 pixels as well. So what that means is that in my 9 slices, my top right, my right, and my bottom right, there's nothing. There's no content there. There is 0 width. My bottom left, bottom, and bottom right are also 0 size. What we have got is a top left, which is 394 pixels wide and 804 pixels tall. We've got a top, which is the rest of that image, 2048 minus 394 wide and 804 pixels tall. And then we've got a left, which is a black section only. It's 394 pixels wide and roughly 200 pixels tall. And then we've got a middle, which is 2048 minus 394 pixels wide and roughly 200 pixels tall. We'll see that that will tile quite nicely. So we're going to jump back into the Ruleset Wizard now. In the Ruleset Wizard, I'm going to create a frame called desktop. I'm going to call it desktop because that's what it's called in Core RPG, and that means I don't have to do any other coding. So I've got a frame named desktop. I select the image that we've just created, which is my cp desktop.jpg. You can see it's 2048 pixels wide, 1000 pixels tall, and 439 kilobytes in size. So it's not too heavy, which is good. Doesn't have too much bloat in it. Right, open that up. Now my frame offset. This is where we're going to trick the 9 slices. So we've got 394 pixels from the left, 804 from the top, 0 from the right, 0 from the bottom. Let's publish it. And let's load up my Fantasy Grounds desktop. And we can see that on my screen size here, which is 1920 by 1080, so a standard full high definition screen, we can see the lady with the rifle, the whatever blaster, on the right hand side of the screen. She really pops out of the screen there. You can see the gun sticking out of the frame. It has impact. We've got a black strip across the top, which is very much like the rule set itself, and we've got a big black strip across the bottom. Now, I'm going to change the UI scale here to, say, 125, which will show a slightly bigger desktop, like a lower res screen. We lose the woman in the back, but we keep the rest of the elements still work. Okay, the background image by itself is still thematic. We still have that black border at the top. We lose the one at the bottom because it's out of range on that size image. I'd unlock the chat frame earlier, which is why that has gotten a bit messed up. Okay, back to 100. Let's change it down to, say, 75. So this is a bigger screen, a wider screen, and so it's about 2,500 pixels wide. And we can see the woman is right in the screen, and we have that street corner now where we've got a street going left, street going right. I can make it simulate a 4K screen, and now we start to get see the weakness of this in that my hero character, is in there twice. Of course, we'll have the combat tracker open and other things there open, so it's not a perfect scenario, but it's pretty close, and it works for most screen sizes. I'll put that back to 100 so I can actually use it. Yeah, I hope that that gives you a little bit of insight into, firstly, how to choose your images, how to look at the images and work out what slices you'll have to do, what position you have to do, where you're going to look for edges to tile. There's so many gorgeous images out there, and they just can't work in a 9 slices tiling layout. They just don't work. So you have to pick an image that works, and that takes a little bit of practice. You have to get comfortable with editing the image and working out those layers, and you've got to understand 9 slices. I hope that's been helpful to you. Thanks for watching.